The best acting Oscar wins of all time. I've given you my first list. Now it's time to give you my seconds. Hi, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender, and I thought it would be fun today to give you another countdown of what I think are the 10 best acting Oscar wins of all time. Now, since I've made this video once before, you can think of this list as number 11 through 20, or you can think of it as an alternate top 10 list. It's up to you. Let's celebrate these amazing Oscar wins. Here we go. Number 10, Best Actor, Marlon Brando, The Godfather.
And if by chance an honest man like yourself should make enemies, then he would become my enemies. And then they would fear you.
Now, I started my last video at number 10 with Marlon Brando for On the Waterfront. I do think that is Brando's finest performance on film. But like The Godfather, Brando in The Godfather is so iconic and memorable. And when we think of film from the 1970s, I feel like Brando's performance as Vito Corleone in The Godfather is one of the images we think of first. That haunting first scene in that dark room. Him stroking the cats, the way he interacts with his family, with his friends, and his enemies. Like, even though Marlon Brando is not in all of The Godfather, you could argue he could have been up for Best Supporting Actor because there are large chunks of the film he's not in. I do think this is the Anthony Hopkins Silence of the Lambs situation, where even though Brando is not in a lot of that movie, you feel his presence when he's not there. Characters are constantly talking about him, referring to him, and when there are long stretches of the movie without Brando, you miss him. So even though Brando himself did not want to accept this Best Actor trophy, a moment in Oscars history I have gone into before and is very famous, right? I still think the performance speaks for itself. Marlon Brando for The Godfather, an all-timer Oscar win.
Our hearts and our understandings will meet with love and generosity. Thank you on behalf of Marlon Brando.
Number 9, Best Actress, Frances McDormand, Fargo.
You see something down there, Chief?
No, I just think I'm gonna barf.
So I don't know about you, but it was pretty easy for me to pick which is my favorite McDormand Oscar win. I mean, she has won four Oscars in her career, 3 of them for acting. And I mean, yes, I very much like her performance in Nomadland, and I adore her performance in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. There's just something about that Fargo performance. It's so funny and creative. It's a character I feel like only McDormand could have played. And Fargo was this mini success story. That film came out very early in 1996. I mean, it's an R-rated dark comedy. It's not the kind of film that would normally go on to get nominations for Best Picture and Best Director and Best Actress at the Oscars, but Fargo did. I think the major film critics really helped with that one. Siskel and Ebert on their show early in 96 called it the best film of the year, and little 11-year-old me was like, Mom, Dad, can we go see Fargo? And they looked at me like, no, that movie's not for you. I did eventually catch up with it on VHS, and of course I've watched it many times since. I love so many things about that movie, but the McDormand performance is such a unique creation, and it's such a cool Oscar win for Best Actress. They could have gone with like Kristen Scott Thomas for The English Patient, could have gone with a more traditional Oscar-y performance, I guess, but no, they go with the comedic performance in the category, the one we still watch and talk about to this day. Frances McDormand in Fargo.
It is impossible to maintain one's composure in this situation. What am I doing here?
Number 8, Best Actress, Bette Davis, Jezebel.
Marion. My felicitations, Pris.
So one of the comments I got the most on my first top 10 acting Oscar wins of all time video was, how could you not have Bette Davis here? Like, how can you make a video on this topic and not give Bette Davis, like, slot 5 or 4 or 3 or something? And I understand that. Bette Davis is one of the great film stars ever to have lived. I love so many of her movies and performances, but I always go back to, like, she didn't necessarily win her 2 Oscars for her best performances. For me, her best work is Of Human Bondage, and now Voyager, and All About Eve, and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. Like, part of me wishes she had won 2 of her Oscars for those movies, not necessarily Dangerous from 1935 or Jezebel from 1938. But you know what? I adore Bette Davis so much, I had to include her on this list. Her win for Dangerous is fine. It was basically a makeup gold trophy for her losing the year before, not being even nominated officially the year before for Of Human Bondage. Her much better Oscar win, I would say, one that better reflects her talent on film, is the Jezebel Oscar win. She is pretty dazzling in that costume drama, really brings her character to life. Henry Fonda is also in that movie. He's very good. It's a wonderful ensemble cast, and right at the center of it is Bette Davis. Again, even though I don't love, with a capital L, Bette Davis's performance in Jezebel compared to some of her other work, like All About Eve and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, she's still very, very, very good in Jezebel. It's worth a look if you've never seen it before.
Congratulations, Betty.
Same to you, Spence.
Thank you.
Number 7, Best Supporting Actor, J.K. Simmons, Whiplash.
Now answer my question. Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
Alright, so occasionally, every decade, we get a supporting actor or supporting actress performance that just knocks our socks off. That just goes for broke, that is so memorable and fascinating and entertaining. And one of the few we got in the 2010s was that J.K. Simmons performance in Whiplash. I could not believe my eyes watching Whiplash for the first time. Was a thrilling experience. It was my pick for the number 1 best film of 2014. And at the center of my love was not necessarily Miles Teller, who's very good in the movie. It was J.K. Simmons as one of the ultimate villain characters in the movies. I mean, I guess you can call him a villain. It's much more than that, especially by the end, that final scene. I do think he is so much more complex than just being the antagonist of Whiplash, but he is so scary at times and intimidating, and the way he can often quietly instill fear in his students is pretty remarkable. J.K. Simmons had been doing great work in the movies for many years. I had liked him in a variety of things, but he speeds into Whiplash like a bat out of hell, and you cannot take your eyes off this guy. This is easily, for me, one of the best acting Oscar wins of the 21st century.
Wow, thank you. Thank you to the Academy. Thank you to everyone involved in the making of Whiplash.
Number 6, Best Actor, Gregory Peck, To Kill a Mockingbird.
In the name of God, do your duty.
I mean, talk about a film and a performance that have aged like fine wine. I love so very much the black and white movies of the 1960s. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I've always found this really beautiful texture to black and white cinematography of that decade, and one of my favorite black and white films of that era is To Kill a Mockingbird, one of the best adaptations of a beloved novel I think we've ever had. I mean, I do think there's a reason we haven't gotten another film adaptation of To Kill a Mockingbird. They kind of nailed it in 1962, and it's like, I know they've done the story on stage with a variety of actors playing Atticus Finch, but Gregory Peck in this role, he was tailor-made for this character. Especially at this point in his film career, this was perfect casting, and he is more than up to the task. He gives such a lovely performance in that movie. The way he interacts with his children, his speeches in the courthouse are amazing, and it's not a big over-the-top performance. I feel like the Academy could have ignored this one, could have given the gold trophy to someone else. But no, they made the right choice in every way with this one. Gregory Peck in To Kill a Mockingbird, one of the best performances easily of the 1960s, and definitely one of the best acting Oscar wins ever.
And I want to thank my family, my good close friends, who have lent me inspiration and moral support and affection.
Number 5, Best Supporting Actress, Lupita Nyong'o, 12 Years a Slave.
500 pounds of cotton, day in, day out. More than any man here. And for that I will be clean. That's all I ask.
So like J.K. Simmons for Whiplash, here is another fantastic acting Oscar win of the 2010s. Lupita Nyong'o is so emotionally devastating, haunting, memorable in 12 Years a Slave. It kind of shocks me she did not sweep the season. As I'm going to discuss in an upcoming video, Lupita Nyong'o versus Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence for American Hustle won Best Supporting Actress that season for both Golden Globes and BAFTA. So there was a chance Lawrence was going to win her second Oscar in 2 years for another David O. Russell movie. And I don't know about you, on Oscar night in early 2014, I breathed a sigh of relief when they announced the winner as Lupita Nyong'o for 12 Years a Slave. That was the rightful win, of course, one of the most extraordinary performances in 2013 in a movie that features such an astounding cast, including Michael Fassbender and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Lupita Nyong'o more than holds her own in a variety of scenes and breaks your hearts. I adore this performance, and I adore this Oscar win.
When I look down at this golden statue, may it remind me and every little child that no matter where you're from, your dreams are valid. Thank you.
Number 4, Best Actor, Peter Finch, Network.
I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value.
So this acting Oscar win might be most famous for being the first posthumous Oscar win for an actor. Peter Finch had sadly passed away a few weeks before the ceremony, and his wife picked up the gold trophy on his behalf. This would be the only posthumous acting Oscar win for decades until Heath Ledger won for The Dark Knight. And just like Heath Ledger as the Joker in Christopher Nolan's movie, one of the most deserved acting Oscar wins ever is absolutely Peter Finch for Network. What a spectacular performance for the ages. I mean, first of all, Network is just an amazing movie. If you've never seen it before, go watch it. Like, you will not be disappointed. You have Faye Dunaway, who won Best Actress, also doing fantastic work. You have Ned Beatty and William Holden and Robert Duvall and Beatrice Straight, who won Best Supporting Actress for basically one scene in the movie. Like, the acting in Network is out of this world. Sidney Lumet was such a good director of actors, which he proved in 12 Angry Men and Dog Day Afternoon and The Verdict and so many wonderful movies. And with his masterpiece Network, he brought together this incredible Oscar-winning screenplay by Paddy Chayefsky with this great cast, and it's just fireworks. Magic on the screen. Everybody is terrific in this movie, but especially Peter Finch has one banger moment after another. So many memorable speeches. He delivers perfectly and with such power, even a little menace. It is just a stunning performance I love to revisit time and time again.
The members of the Academy and my husband, I wish he was here tonight.
Number 3, Best Actress, Marion Cotillard, La Vie en Rose. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know how much I love my actresses. Year to year, the category I spend most time thinking about, talking about, analyzing is always Best Actress. And throughout the decades, we have had some amazing wins in this category, but I do think, after so many decades of the Academy Awards, one of the very best victories in this category is Marion Cotillard for La Vie en Rose. She won in early 2008, and kind of like how I talked about with Nyong'o in Best Supporting Actress, Marion Cotillard did not have that Oscar win in the bag. Best Actress that year came down to either Cotillard or Julie Christie for Away From Her. Christie is excellent in that film, but there's just something about the transformative performance Marion Cotillard gifted to the world in La Vie en Rose. It is a genuine work of art, scene to scene. Everything that's required of her to do is pretty remarkable, and she is more than up to the task. Even though I would say the movie itself isn't talked about a lot these days, I do think that Oscar win for Marion Cotillard is considered by many one of the best in Oscars history. I have always believed that. I believed it on the night. I mean, there's a reason Cate Blanchett gets so excited at hearing Cotillard's name announced by Forest Whitaker, because I think she knew, and so many others knew, this was the right winner and Best Actress that year, and it is a victory that has aged very well.
And it is true, there is some angels in this city. Thank you so much.
Number 2, Best Supporting Actor, Joe Pesci, Goodfellas.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
Tommy, no, you got it all wrong.
Oh, Anthony. He's a big boy. He knows what he said. What'd you say?
You're right.
Funny how?
Alright, so Joe Pesci might have given one of the shortest Oscar acceptance speeches ever. All he says is, "It was my privilege, thank you," and walks off the stage. So I don't know then and now if that Oscar win really meant anything to Joe Pesci, but who cares? At the end of the day, this is one of my favorite performances on film ever that went on to win an Academy Award. I mean, I do think because of the violence in the movie, the profanity, back in 1991, the Academy could have gone with someone else here, but them going with Joe Pesci for Goodfellas. The same year, Pesci was in Home Alone. It's just kind of perfect. That fall season, we got to see two completely different kinds of villainous performances from Pesci. They're both great in their own ways, but his performance in Goodfellas, it's on such another level. I find myself thinking about it just randomly at times in my life. Kind of like J.K. Simmons in Whiplash. Joe Pesci in Goodfellas is terrifying. I mean, you say the wrong thing to him, he might shoot you and kill you, as he does in the movie more than once. There is menace to his performance. It's also very funny at times, the way he interacts with all of his friends and his family. It is just a beautiful creation in the history of Martin Scorsese movies, in the history of movies in general. I love, love, love Joe Pesci in Goodfellas.
Oh, it's my privilege, thank you.
Now, before I get to my number one choice, here are a few runners-up. Best Actress, Joanne Woodward, The Three Faces of Eve. I have always really loved this actress. She had 4 Oscar nominations throughout her career. I do think her best performance on film is in The Three Faces of Eve. She got to show so many dramatic shades in that movie. It is a showstopper. Best Actress, Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins. I know this one might not be everybody's favorite. I mean, it is a Disney movie, but that's kind of why I love it. It's kind of a rarity in the history of film for a major performance in a Walt Disney production to get an Oscar nomination, let alone a win in Best Actress, and I think it was totally deserved. Julie Andrews is amazing in that film. Best Actor, Ray Milland, The Lost Weekend. If you have never seen this 1945 Billy Wilder film about an alcoholic I highly recommend it. It also won Best Director and Best Picture that year, and Ray Milland, who had been doing great work in film for years, this was the performance of his career. I find his work in that movie to be so ahead of its time. It is gripping. It is phenomenal. Best Actress, Sissy Spacek, coal miner's daughter. I might not love it every time when someone wins an Oscar for playing a real-life figure, a musician, like as I've talked about in some of my other top 10 acting Oscar win videos. I do very much adore that Best Actress Oscar win for Sissy Spacek playing Loretta Lynn in Coal Miner's Daughter. She gets to show a wide range of dramatic and musical talent in that movie, and with such a long list of Oscar nominations to her name, I'm just happy that Sissy Spacek has an Oscar. And then you had to know this one was coming. Best Actress, Emma Stone, Poor Things. My final runner-up last time was Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once, and my final runner-up for this video is Emma Stone in Poor Things. As many of you know, I was very excited to hear Emma Stone's name called as Best Actress at the 96th Academy Awards. I think that victory in this category is going to age beautifully. It was my favorite performance of 2023, and I am thrilled Emma Stone won the Oscar. And now finally, that takes me to my number one choice. What did I choose in this list as the best acting Oscar win of all time? It is Best Actor, Daniel Day-Lewis, There Will Be Blood.
Say it louder.
I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy!
Alright, so the comment I got the most in my previous top 10 best acting Oscar wins video was, how can you leave off Daniel Day-Lewis? The guy has won 3 Best Actor Oscars. He is fantastic in all 3 movies, very much deserved those Academy Award wins. Like, how could you leave Day-Lewis off the list? I saw that comment over and over and over and over again. And I apologize. I do agree with you. In that first video, I probably should have had Day-Lewis show up somewhere because he is one of our greats. And as much as I love his performances in Lincoln and My Left Foot, my favorite performance of Day-Lewis in his long and extraordinary career is in There Will Be Blood, written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. I do think that is one of the great performances on film, and it is certainly the greatest acting Oscar win we've had so far this century. Like, There Will Be Blood is such a unique masterpiece that really elevated Paul Thomas Anderson to another level in his career. I mean, I adore Boogie Nights and Magnolia and Punch Drunk Love, but I don't think any of us was expecting There Will Be Blood from Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, after watching that movie, I was like, Anderson is now one of our great filmmakers. I cannot wait to see what he does next. Whereas Daniel Day-Lewis, we all knew he had There Will Be Blood in him. I mean, he was just doing one amazing performance after another. Like, he was getting closer and closer to his next Best Actor Oscar win. It finally arrived in early 2008, the same night Marion Cotillard won her Oscar in Best Actress. So yeah, this was a pretty great ceremony. Even though everybody knew Day-Lewis was going to win Best Actor that night, we all were very much aware how deserved it was. Daniel Day-Lewis has always been extraordinary, but his performance as Daniel Plainview in There Will Be Blood, I mean, it's just one for the ages in every way. His moments of silence, his big speeches, that incredible final scene in the bowling alley, I don't think anybody has forgotten. Again, I apologize for not putting Daniel Day-Lewis anywhere in that previous video. But in this video, he gets to be number one, as he should be. Daniel Day-Lewis, There Will Be Blood, the number one acting Oscar win of all time.
I've been thinking a lot about fathers and sons in the course of this, and like to accept this in the memory of my grandfather, Michael Balkan, my father, Cecil Day-Lewis, and my 3 fine boys, Gabriel, Ronan, and Cashel. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below what are some of your choices for the best acting Oscar wins of all time I might not have covered in this video, and we'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.